Hey guys, welcome or welcome back. Tisha here, back for another Bridgerton Season 2 review. Go ahead and do me a favor and hit that like button. It helps the channel. We begin this episode with flashbacks of all the times that Anthony and Kate had an intense moment. We hear deep breathing as we see flash upon flash upon flash upon flash. And as the flashes end, Kate is standing there seeming a little bewildered. Kate has it bad. We see Anthony, and he is walking as he approaches Kate, and they lock eyes, but he walks past her. He says, "Miss Sharma," very formal, and go ahead and heads into the room as he greets his queen and his fiance. As Kate looks on, we see Anthony, Lady Danbury, and the Sharmas are meeting with the queen to discuss the upcoming wedding. What is it with the Bridgertons and them always seeming to try to hurry up and have a timely wedding? Or maybe that's just something within the time period that you get engaged and within a matter of months you are married. So the queen wants to make sure that there is no talk this time of a special license, because we know that when it came to the Duke and Daphne, they requested a special license. And Anthony says, no. We want a modest country wedding, probably at Aubrey Hall. But the queen isn't having it. She insists that she host the wedding, not because she believes so much in this match necessarily, but because she wants to take any opportunity to rub this in Lady Whistledown's face, which you hear a little bit later on. Lady Mary and the Viscount say, that is so generous, but it's not necessary. But the queen says, nonsense. She is my diamond after all. It is only right that I give you both a wedding worthy of that title. Besides, one could almost credit myself with bringing about this most illustrious match. I shall oversee every detail. Then she says, let the gossip monger try to get the better of me now. So she really is all about herself in this. Like, she wants that one up Lady Whistledown. We see you, queen. Edwina is excited about this because this is turning out to be even better than she thought. She's going to be able to have a fairy tale wedding. Meanwhile, Kate is sitting there and she's fanning herself and she's having yet some more flashbacks of Anthony. And the queen is talking to them, and you hear the queen basically say, only the best for a true love match. As soon as the queen utters those words, Kate gets flustered and she almost drops the china because she's sipping tea that she has in her hands. Lord, Kate, get it together. Y'all are just getting started with this process. We then hear Lady Whistledown. The frenzied competition, the thrilling delight of hazarding your all. Why does that sound like it's wrong? I should have checked this before I started. I am referring not to the lure of London's luxurious gaming halls, but to a gamble with far higher stakes, matrimony. For once that particular wager is placed, it cannot easily be undone, a fact which I am sure is met with both regret and sheer relief. We see the Featheringtons. Eloise and Penelope are talking about, the madness of their siblings, while Lord Featherington is fussing about all the various debts that they currently have, in addition to this now supposed wedding that he's supposed to have. He wants the wedding called off because he wants to pursue Cressida, but Lady Featherington is like, there's no way that you're going to do that. You can't embarrass her like that. We can't be the talk of the town again. We have to remain from being a scandal. So she lets him know, we'll figure something else out. The wedding is a month away, and Anthony is at his home getting fitted for his suit. He tells his younger siblings Edwina will live with them after the wedding. And then Lady Bridgerton adds, she'll be the lady of the house responsible for you all. Think about that. Even though she is the mother and she is currently running a lot of things and she helps Anthony with a lot of things, because her son is the head of the household, because he is the Viscount, once he gets married, it is no longer hers to run. She seems okay with it, but me personally, I would feel away if I did all of that, married my husband. His lineage, everything associated with him is passed on to my son, who at the time, if I remember, was 19. And now he's the head of this household. He's running everything. And once he gets married, I no longer have a say. That would bother me, but that's just me. Anthony lets the family know that he wants the carriages polished to a shine, the horses' manes braided, and the silver as well as the house need to be ready because they may at times have to entertain despite the queen wanting to host this. He let them know that not only will they be looking at him, but the town will now be looking at them as a family as well. And I'm listening to him speak and I'm like, okay, this is a lot of unnecessary pressure if you really think about it. Lady Bridgerton says, there is the dinner to plan with Lady Danbury to welcome the Sharmas into the family, and then the engagement ball next week. I'm going to need some help, Eloise. Eloise lies and says she has a lecture about flower and floral arrangements to attend with Penelope today because her mom kind of wants her to work on things, and what better way for Eloise to work on them too, you know, learn how to be more like a lady, when really she's going somewhere else. So while all that is going on, Edwina is at Madame Delacroix's, the modiste, getting ready for her dress fitting. She's very excited, bragging about being married by the Archbishop and talking about all the different things that are happening and how they need to also make sure that they find something for her sister too. And she is talking about how she's looking forward to spending more time with the Viscount and the family and how she's going to be able to see the snow at Aubrey Hall in the winter. As we all know, this is a lot for Kate. She also talks about how whatever she said to the Viscount must have helped sway his decision. So this celebration is just as much hers as it is Kate's. But Kate looks like she just doesn't want to be there. Edwina says, it will be so exciting living in London. The Viscount said there might even be a snow this winter. Won't that be exciting? Kate says, you must enjoy it without me, Bon. Recall, I'm going to set sail after you wed. Edwina's like, but you will return to visit, of course. And when the Viscount and I are blessed with children, you shall be their favorite aunt. And she chuckles. Think of us all together as a family. And as she's gleaming, Kate is like, I said this is torture to her. So while that's going on, the Featheringtons are there as well, trying to get things for Penelope and possibly Penelope's nuptials. But she's not getting as much attention as Edwina is, because after all, Edwina is the diamond and the queen is going to be taking care of the nuptials. Penelope approaches Madame Delacroix to talk about how busy she's been and things of that nature. And Madame Delacroix suggests that, you know, Whistledown possibly mention that she's going to be the one designing the diamond's dress. And Penelope feels like she's already, you know, brought her enough business. Like, why do you need more? And Madame Delacroix says, but why should there be limits to a woman's ambitions? I would think of all people, you would understand there is always more to be achieved. Saying, let's not stop here. Let's keep this going while we can. Which, when you put it that way, Madame Delacroix, I get it. Strike while it's hot. In a later scene, we see Kate arrive home at Lady Danbury's to find Anthony and Mr. Brooks. Mr. Brooks is the Bridgerton's jeweler, okay? He's there to help resize Edwina's ring. As they're waiting, we see him ask if that's lemon cake or whatever, and she gives him lemon cake, and he sits down and he eats some cake. Apparently, he likes cake because later on when he's at the Featheringtons' house, he's asking for cake then too. Anthony asks Kate, you know, what she thinks of the weather. Small talk. A lot of us hate it. I'm like, out of all things, sir, we're going to ask her about the weather. She calls him out on his engagement, pointing out that if anybody other than Daphne had seen them at Aubrey Hall the night that whatever happened between them happened, that they would be the ones that were forced to be married. And I found it interesting that she used the words forced, because really in her mind, would it have been him being forced? Mr. Brooks comes to the realization while he's eating cake that since Kate shares gloves with her sister, since they have the same size, that he can use her finger to size the ring. She says no, he says no. Both Anthony and Kate are objecting, but Mr. Brooks puts the ring on the finger anyway. Once the ring is on, all of that, I don't know, that wall that they always seem to have up starts to come down, and they have yet another moment while they're staring at this ring together. She talks about how beautiful the ring is, and he explained that it's the same ring that his father gave his mother. He holds her hand ever so gently, and he uses his finger to graze the ring as he, runs it along her finger. It's very, yeah, you got a little bit of sensuality in there, Mr. Bridgerton. And as he's doing this, Edwina and Lady Mary walk in the room, and you see them kind of get startled and separate quickly. The separation feels awkward to me, and personally, if I were to enter the room and I saw how startled they look, I personally would have taken notice. Kate struggles to pry the ring off her finger. She's looking at her like, okay, I have my ring back now. I have my ring back now. And eventually she gets it off in time for Lady Danbury to arrive. And Lady Danbury lets them know that the Sheffields will be there. If you all forgot, the Sheffields are the parents of Lady Mary, who she has not talked to. So the Sheffields are in town and will be attending the upcoming engagement dinner that they had planned. What kind of people show up to town just to come to a dinner and see a wedding involving the daughter and a granddaughter that they've never met and a daughter that they haven't seen in years? But they show up now basically because of this engagement. This is a big problem, however, for Kate, because Kate still hasn't told her mother or her sister what is going on and the deal that she made with them. She still hasn't told them about the financial agreement that she made on their behalf. Anthony suggests that they promenade. Lady Mary is so bothered by the presence of her parents and knowing that she's going to have to eat dinner with them that she says she has a headache and she needs to lay down. So she asks Lady Danbury if she can escort, Edwina. And she says, yes, and Kate, you'll join me. So Kate and Lady Danbury are promenading along with the couple, and they walk and talk behind them as the couple does what they do. So Kate says, how could you invite the Sheffields to dinner when you know full well the pain my mother has suffered after their rejection of her? And Lady Danbury says, indeed, which is why I shall not answer their impoliteness with my own. And besides, is this not the reconciliation you wish for? Edwina returned to the bosom of the Sheffield family to reclaim the fortune you so desperately need. Because remember, they're broke. Kate says, yes, but not until after the wedding. Edwina is still in the dark about the conditions of their favor, and if the Bridgertons were to learn of it, they might feel, Lady Danbury says, as if you contrived a match for your own concealed ends and might call off the wedding. I have to wonder if you might not secretly rejoice were the Viscount to break the engagement. And Kate isn't fooling Lady Danbury, because I'm like, of all things, why this? She says, why would you ever say such a thing? And that's when the music starts playing. They are betrothed. The Viscount made a charming proposal. Your sister gave her giddy acceptance. And in the eyes of society, and might I add the Queen of England herself, they are as good as wed. Only a very great scandal will prevent this marriage from proceeding now. The kind of scandal that would send alarms to the entire town and be a stain from which the penniless Sharma family would never recover. Only a fool would jeopardize the marriage now. So I ask you, Miss Sharma, are you that fool? Kate looks around. She sees her sister and she sees Anthony talking, and she sees the smile on her sister's face, and she says no. So Lady Danbury says, I did not think so. Boy, oh boy, did Lady Danbury check her in the most classiest ways. That's why she's one of my favorite characters. So we see Mr. Dorset appear. That's the guy that Anthony used to try to, get her attention while they were at the races. And he's there and he's apologizing to her, as well as request, for Kate to join him on the lake for a rowboat ride. And she first tries to decline it, but Lady Danbury is like, she'll go. So Edwina sees this and seems more excited about this than Kate. She comments to Anthony and I think, well, I can't remember if his mom was there yet, but she comments about how good they look. Then says maybe he can help convince Kate to remain in England after all. Anthony says she barely knows the gentleman, and he looks on in what I would call jealousy. His mother can tell something is off because they're talking about details of the wedding, but rather than focusing on what they're saying, he's too busy watching Kate. He's answering here and there, but he's not really engaged. Anthony cannot stand the fact that Kate is receiving all this attention from another guy. So we see Colin and Penelope talking about him speaking with not just Marina, but also with him having a conversation with the new Lord Featherington because he's interested in talking to him about commerce. He says everyone else has something else going on in the family but him, and he just wants to, figure out some things. So Penelope asks where Eloise is, and he tells her she's supposed to be out flower shopping with you. And she's like, oh, yeah, okay. So we see Eloise has taken a chaperone to the other side of town. And then while they're out there, she ends up ditching her to go to an assembly that looks like it's about women's rights or something like that. Assembly or debate, something like that about women's rights. It's not just women there, men there as well. As she's there, she sees Theo Sharp, which is the guy from the print shop, the same guy who gave her the pamphlet that made her more interested in this stuff in the first place. They talk, sense a little bit of flirting here and there, and she mentions that she has some stuff that she wants to discuss with him, and they officially introduce themselves to one another. She knew who he was, but he didn't know who she was, which makes me wonder what all she did to find out who he was. Lady Featherington decides to have this jeweler come to her house. She has him look at the jewelry, which at the time, Lord Featherington seems nervous about. We later find out that one of the reasons why he was nervous about it is because it's counterfeit. It is fake jewelry. And for whatever reason, maybe because he didn't have all his equipment, the jeweler could not tell the difference. And I said, okay, this is interesting. Like, why is this a thing? He tells her to take care of it, the jeweler does, because the stones are rare and it's hard to find that. It's hard to find stones that are that fine and that rare. So as he walks off, she considers cashing in on this counterfeit business. And what she tells him to do later on is she tells Lord Featherington to find all the different investors in the town that want to invest in his mines that are in the United States, because none of them are actually going to go to look at the mines. So what better way to get money, get them from out of the hole, get them to pay off all their debts, than to collect all this money to use for this mine that's useless. So they're not going to use it for the mine. They're going to use it for themselves. Back to Kate. So Kate and Mr. Dawsett are on the lake and they're having a good conversation. He mentions the tranquility of nature in India, and Kate admits that she is looking forward to going back. She wants to become a governess, and she wants to basically run her own household, being able to be independent and do things the way that she wants to. But as I hear her talking, I'm like, are you really eager to go back? And if so, why are you so eager to go back? Mr. Dawsett thought that she would be staying in England with her sister since her sister was getting married. And he mentions that he himself thought about going back to India to enhance his medical practice. And I said, let me find out that this man is a doctor. Or if he's not a doctor, he's some kind of way in the medical field. Kate says she would be happy to show him around as Kate and Mr. Dawsett, talk and laugh and stuff. So they're going around the lake in this, rowboat. And as they're finishing their boat ride and they come back to the dock, we see that Edwina and Anthony are waiting there. Anthony complains as Mr. Dawsett is tying his knot about his skills in knot tying. And I would think that a doctor would know how to tie a knot, but maybe he's not a surgeon, so maybe it doesn't require that. Anyways, so he insists that Kate take his hand to get out the boat. He sticks his hand out. She puts her hand in his, and he's staring at her while holding her hand, and it's lasting a little bit too long. So Kate pulls her hand away. As she's pulling her hand away, he begins to lose balance. He trips over Newton, which is Kate's dog. He falls back, and as he's falling back, he grabs Mr. Dorset, who also falls in the lake with him. It not only makes me laugh, but it makes members of the town laugh and the sisters as well. As he's getting out the water, we then see both of the sisters lusting after Anthony as his white shirt is now clinging to his body, and they're seeing that beautiful physique of Mr. Anthony Bridgerton. So we see later Benedict is at the art academy. He meets a model that is a woman who is standing in there, and she's sketching out some stuff, and he's talking to her, and she says, she wished she could learn too, even though two women helped find this place. Women aren't allowed to be in the classes unless they're modeling. So he's like, oh, okay, so what you do is you model so that you can pick techniques up. And she says yes. So she asks him if he's willing to pose because it's kind of hard. He says, I'm willing to do it, and he doesn't. And then she goes, I need to, draw the male form. And he doesn't waste any time to take off his clothes. Apparently, Mr. Bridgerton has nothing worth hiding. We then see the Sharmas talking. Kate, nobody would blame you if you were to take sick, Mama, and send apologies for missing the dinner tonight. Lady Mary says, Lady Danbury has made it quite clear that it is necessary for all of us to attend. Kate says, when was the last time you saw them? Her mom says, the night your dear father asked for my hand in marriage. I believe Lord Sheffield made it clear in no uncertain terms that he did not support the match. So I had a choice to make between my family and my heart. Kate, and did you ever regret that choice? From the very first moment, your father and I were drawn together. It is a very powerful thing to meet someone and to feel that you know them in a way unlike any other. Which is interesting that she said that, because it kind of describes what's going on here. Kate says, still a rather high price to pay for love, I would think. She says, do not fret. Even my parents' presence cannot mar the happiness that is the occasion. I had always hoped that you and Edwina would be spared the choice between affluence and love, and now you shall. Edwina is to wed her heart's desires, and you have always wanted nothing more than your freedom. So this conversation lets us know that not only has Lady Mary not seen her parents since the day that she left, before Edwina was even conceived or born, but that much like Anthony, Kate isn't really interested in love either. Yet for some reason, the two of them seem to be drawn to each other. So before heading to Lady Danbury's dinner, we see Lady Bridgerton walking in to talk to Anthony. She says, I've been watching you all week. I told myself I would support your choice, but I must admit I am finding it quite difficult to continue to stay silent. This is your betrothal, Anthony, your marriage to the woman that shall replace me as head of this household, might I add. He says, you question Miss Edwina's suitability for the role? She says, I question the example you are setting for your siblings, marrying a woman for whom you clearly hold no great tenderness or love. He says, why will you not accept that the love match between you and father was the exception, not the rule? She says, because I wish for you two to know the joy of an exceptional marriage. You should be excited to wed Miss Edwina, but for all I have seen, you act as if you're approaching the gallows instead. If this is not what you want, you must say something now, Anthony, before he says what I want is besides the point. Doesn't matter what he wants at this point, he says, because he can't dishonor Edwina, which is crazy considering that he is obviously drawn to her sister. His mother agrees that a gentleman cannot withdraw his proposal, but says a young lady can. She says, my darling, if you have doubts, do not simply set them aside. This is the most important choice you will ever make, and if would break my heart to see you spend the rest of your life in regret, I dare say it would break your father's heart too. And she leaves. Back at Lady Danbury's, Edwina notices Kate is off, and Kate is trying to tell Edwina that, you know, it's all right, she's okay, but she sees something's off, and she tells her that she has to tell her something. So she's getting ready to probably tell her about her grandparents', you know, arrangement, but Lady Danbury comes in to tell them that Lord and Lady Sheffield have arrived. As she walks off, she's looking, Lady Danbury, at Kate, and she says, "Don't worry, I'll be on my best behavior." Lady Danbury says, "You think me an unfeeling harridan, but perhaps it would surprise you to learn that I am hosting this dinner for your sake. Your sister's betrothal may be the end of certain hopes you harbored regarding the Viscount, but access to the Sheffield fortune will certainly be a fine reward, would it not? A life of independence is no mere consolation. Indeed, many would think it the better prize. After passion cools and fate intervenes, who else is a woman left with but herself?" Come along. Our guests are waiting. Just further shows that Lady Danbury knew that Kate wasn't just irritated with Anthony. Kate was feeling something else towards Anthony, and she sees the position that Kate is in. She calls her out on it in little ways, but doesn't come out and directly say it. But she's letting her know, like, I see you, Kate. I see what you got going on. So as Edwina walks out, they gush over Edwina. But even though Lady Mary and Kate are standing right there, they say little to them. This behavior continues throughout the dinner. The rudeness is just like every time somebody says something, they say something slick. Yeah. They're not going to let go of this grudge that they have against their daughter. I mean, it gets so bad that there are times where you see Lady Bridgerton and Lady Danbury trying to change the subject or shift the conversation, but it doesn't work. So Lady Sheffield says, "Imagine the Queen herself overseeing my granddaughter's nuptials. Her Majesty is kind to be so forgiving after everything that has happened." Lord Sheffield says, now, we are all family here. And Lady Sheffield says, oh, yes, of course we are. Even after our daughter so callously rejected the match we had found for her. The fact that she is bringing this up after all these years where in their society, Edwina is old enough to now marry, shows how long she's been harboring this grudge. Lord Sheffield says, "My dear, we agreed." She says, "An earl, no less, with 12,000 acres, and any other young lady would have fallen to her knees in gratitude that her parents were showing such care. And all for what? A mere clerk, was he? And with a child from a previous marriage, God knows whom. We could not show our faces in society for years. Not that she could care. She simply sailed away from us all with that man, robbing us of our grandchild." And as she's saying this, at some point, Kate tries to interject, saying her mother has a name and all that other stuff. But then Lady Mary, who's been quiet this entire time, decides to speak. "Grandchildren. I have 2 daughters with whom you have had every opportunity to form a connection, but the choice to shun us was yours alone. And do not think I took it lightly, being cast out by the only family I had ever known. I was heartbroken indeed, but in time, I came to see that in your cruelty, you did us all a great service. When you cast me out, what you did was you set me free to raise my daughters, far from your constant judgment and craven demands that they should chase wealth and titles above all else." This, of course, tickles Lady Sheffield because she knows something that Lady Mary does not. She says, "You are a fine one to talk. You speak of scorning riches, and yet you have come crawling back to snatch at our fortune." Mary says, "Believe me, I want nothing from you." Lady Sheffield says, "Oh, you may not, but your daughter certainly does. The trust fund we have set up for her, the condition of which clearly states that she must marry a man of good English breeding to inherit." As she's saying this, you see Anthony looking like, okay, this is news to me. You didn't think we would allow another generation to pollute the Sheffield name, did you? Edwina says, Dee Dee, what are they talking about? Mary says, what have you done? Lady Bridgerton says, Anthony, did you know about this? Kate says, I shall explain everything. Lady Sheffield says, I see this one has inherited your penchant for avoiding the truth. Or is that something she inherited from her father? At this point, Anthony has had it, because not only have you talked about the Sharmas, but you said something about Kate. So he says that is enough. I can only think you've been exiled from good society because of your deficient manners rather than any other sin. Since the moment you have arrived, you have failed to show the proper respect for the Sharma family, and I will not stand for it. Lord Sheffield says, I declare. Anthony says, I will not stand for it. Lady Mary has done admirably in raising her daughters. They are intelligent, kind, loyal women, and a credit to both their parents. And since you clearly do not wish to jeopardize your social standing by associating with such company, I suggest you do not. He slams the table. You may leave at once. I said, you go, Anthony. That's how you tell him. Lord Sheffield says, you cannot be serious. He says, please send for Lord and Lady Sheffield's carriage. They can wait outside. And do not trouble yourselves for an invitation for the wedding, for you shall not receive one. Lord Sheffield says, this is beyond the pale. And if you think you shall inherit a single sovereign now, you are sorely mistaken. Lady Mary says, Lord Bridgerton, Lady Bridgerton, I must apologize. And he interrupts and says, we should take our leave. And Lady Bridgerton says, yes. All of this news to Anthony and Lady Bridgerton has really disturbed them, and it's understandable why everybody at the table is upset with Kate. The only person who doesn't really seem shocked is Lady Danbury, which will come into play later on. Kate catches Anthony as he's about to leave. Anthony tells his mom he'll meet her at the house. He talks to Kate and says he doesn't blame Edwina for what happened. Now he feels it's best to call off their doomed engagement. And Kate asks him what Edwina has done to change his mind. Anthony says, it's not her, it's you. You're the one who's made this match impossible. Kate reminds him that she's leaving for India anyway, so it doesn't matter. And he's like, that's not far enough. Y'all, this scene. Let's get into it. Do you think that there is a corner of this earth that you could travel to far away enough to free me from this torment? I am a gentleman. My father raised me to act with honor, but that honor is hanging by a thread that grows more precarious with every moment I spend in your presence. You are the bane of my existence and the object of all my desires. Woo! He walks towards her and his voice lowers, you know, that sensual stuff. He says, night and day, I dream of you. And do you even know all the ways a lady can be seduced? The things I could teach you? At this point, they're both breathing heavy. Y'all know they're great for the heavy reads. Meanwhile, I'm over here staring at the TV like, Jesus. They're finally going to do something. She says, I did not ask for this. Now, while they're talking, y'all, they like forehead to forehead. And yeah, she said, I did not ask for this, to be plagued by these feelings, hiding from my sister, being driven to distraction every time you enter the room. As she's talking, she has a little tendril like this hanging in her face, and he brushes it back. You know how I said he brushes it back out her face. I said, ooh. Then he puts his hand like this on her, and she leans into it like as she's talking. I said, oh. He says, then you agree. It is insupportable, impossible. As they get really close together, this is when he shakes his head and then steps back. He says, if I wed your sister, it will bind me and you together for eternity. And I will spend every day of my marriage wanting you, dreaming of you, dreading the day when my last thread of honor finally snaps. Is that the future that you want for us, for your sister? I must go. Y'all, they at this point, they were like, I just knew they were about to kiss, but they didn't kiss. And he can't get out of there fast enough. So Kate leaves out. She checks on Edwina, who's crying. And she says she suspected that Kate was hiding something. She was hiding the truth about something ever since the engagement. And now she knows what it is. And Kate explains, like, she did it with the best intentions for the family. Edwina says, I'm not a little girl anymore. I'm a grown woman that's ready to be a wife. But we're still going to be okay. The Viscount will provide for me and you all too. Girl, he don't want you. Edwina says she loves Anthony. How could she not after seeing him defend her family at dinner? It wasn't about the family, though, I don't think. I think it was more so about Kate. But you all tell me what you think. So, it's the morning. Eloise is back in Theo's face again. She wants to talk about some of the things in the pamphlet. As she's doing this, we see Penelope spying on her, and we hear Lady Whistledown. Duty, more than laws or faith. I have often thought it the bond that holds our fragile society together. We see Kate riding on the horse, the music is playing, and Benedict is naked while kissing the artist from his school, and she ends up naked too, and we can assume what happens there. Duty to rank and title, fidelity to one's family name. It demands both utter obedience and total sacrifice. But what happens when such duty is in conflict with the heart's true desire? Then there is the potential for a considerable scandal indeed. The only question is, will the parties in question heed my warning, or is it already too late to turn back to duty away from desire? This warning could be for multiple people, because you got the Featheringtons with their stuff, you got Kate and Anthony with their stuff, you got Edwina with her situation, which she doesn't even really know about. You even got Penelope with her situation. It's a lot of different pockets if you really, really think about it. So Kate and Anthony meet in the same woods that I think that they met the first time. He says he thinks it's best to end the engagement so he and Kate won't have to cross paths ever again, and they could be like they never met. Kate says you can't do that. You can't end the engagement. And she's basically putting aside the love that she has for her sister. She says, you cannot break my sister's heart. She is all things good and true, a kinder soul you will never find. She has loved me as well as any sister could, and I could not live with myself if I robbed her of her happiness and future she deserves. He says, I do not understand. You have been against this union from the start. She says, I was wrong. I will not be the cause of you losing your honor any more than I can stand to see Edwina in pain. You once saw her as your perfect match. You will find your way to believing it again. Please, please, Lord Bridgerton, Anthony. You guys, the way that that man looked at her when she said his actual name did something to him. She says, you must keep your word. You must marry my sister. You must marry her as soon as you can, because this feeling that plagues us so, it will pass. It will become tenable. It will become bearable. And soon enough, it will be as if we never felt it at all. Mere passion. It must, because it has to. I said, goodness gracious, girl, you don't understand that this whole thing that y'all are experiencing is more than passion. This is love. Y'all love each other. Y'all are burning for each other the way that Daphne previously described. Y'all want each other or connected to each other the way that both Lady Bridgerton and Lady Mary have described. All of these various people have been placed in your path for you all to see what this is, but both of y'all are too stubborn and too bound to duty, as Lady Whistledown said, to even see it. So he says very well. He stares at Kate, and the way he's looking at her, y'all, if a man looks at you that way, understand that he cares about you. He's not just looking at her like he always wants to devour her. He's looking at her like he cares so much about her that he's willing to do this favor for her because it's what she wants. He tips his hat, he gets on his horse, and he rides off as Kate is standing there looking gorgeous because she has the fishtail braid going down on the side and the colors and everything. She's a pretty girl, and she's crying. And that is the end. Y'all tell me what you thought of this episode. Also, let me know what your favorite part was. I'll tell you mine. I'm going to put it down in the comment section. That's what I'll do. I'll wait till I see some comments and then I'll tell mine. All right. Until next time.